Today is Friday, September 18th, 2020, and this is the start of an interview with Tommy Firebaugh at the Historical Society of Western Virginia and Owen Link Museum, 101 Shenandoah Avenue Northeast, Roanoke, Virginia. My name is Ashley Webb, Curator of Collections and Exhibitions with the Historical Society, and I'll be the interviewer. We'll mainly be talking about Roanoke's Election Day flood on November 4th, 1985, and Mr. Firebaugh's photographs in relation to that flood. Can you please give me your name and tell me a little bit about yourself?
How far back you want to go?
Oh, sorry, you can start at the beginning. That's fine.
Okay, I'm Tommy Firebaugh, a lifetime resident of Roanoke County, and I've been photographing probably for 40 years, 50 years, something like that. And I like photographing historical things like downtown Roanoke and steam trains, waterfalls, mill wheels, old buildings, anything that I think would be of historical significance. Okay.
So what was your profession?
My profession, I worked for 32 years over at Norfolk and Western, which is Norfolk Southern Corporation now, and it'll say 32 years.
So the photography wasn't your actual profession? Oh, okay.
That was not my profession with the railroad. I was a product manager there.
Okay.
And I kind of got into photography when back long about 1979 or so, I started seeing them tearing buildings down. It bothered me, and I'm thinking, well, we need to document what they were before, because a lot of them were torn down just to make parking lots and stuff like that. And the first one that bothered me, and that was before I was starting to photograph, was the American Theater, which I believe came down in maybe 76 or somewhere like that. And so I started documenting them, and then as the festival in the park and stuff like that came along, I started displaying my work and selling them. And it kind of went from there for maybe 40 years of doing stuff like that. Really enjoyed it. And a lot of my photography are on walls of restaurants, doctor's office, different things, and I would many times frame my own work and everything too.
Wow. So what inspired you to become a photographer? The work that the buildings that were coming down, is that what inspired you to do that?
Yeah, that was some of it, but I started out photographing little leagues of football, basketball, baseball, and so on in the recreation clubs. And that spun into other things like what I just told you with old buildings and waterfalls and stuff like that. And I guess that was where I put my spending money out of what I made off of photographing kids. I put back into my display of photography and started doing arts and crafts shows. So I got up to where I was like doing 30 shows a year,
Wow.
which kept my wife and myself busy, and she's also an artist, so we had both ends of it going. She did watercolors and hand-painted mailboxes and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
So we just enjoy doing that.
So I'm going to switch now a little bit and talk about the flood. So can you describe the events leading up to November 4th, like the few days before?
Yes, and as you're aware of, we had tremendous amount of rain when the hurricane stalled out over Roanoke Valley. I think it was like 6.5 inches fell on November 3rd, the night of. It was election day, I believe, here in Roanoke. And at the time, I was working on the 6th floor of the NS building, which is the Colonial American Bank building at the time. And that was on the corner of Campbell Avenue and Jefferson Street. And that morning, we had noticed the rain had started getting heavier and heavier. And I think basically everybody stayed in for lunch that day or did whatever they could. And long about 1 o'clock, it just picked up to where I noticed water coming up down the Campbell Avenue, and 2x4s and all kinds of wooden things started coming down through there, and the rainwater started getting swifter, and it started jumping the curbing, and I called the management. I said, "Hey, we're getting a lot of rain. Is it okay if we, leave?"
Did they send you home?
They didn't acknowledge it at first, and it just kept getting up more and more. So I think basically everybody took it on themselves to, "Hey, we got to get out of here." We could not go out the front door on the Jefferson Street side because the water had inched on up. I saw one mailbox and it was creeping up on that. So we managed to go out the alleyway and go out the side door, and I had parked to the east part of Roanoke or Campbell Avenue, down where the railroad tracks were. And I made my way to my truck, which was not, fortunately, was not in the water at the time. And I stayed up on the railroad tracks to keep my feet dry as I could, and keep my ankles and stuff out of the water. So I went down and got in my car, and I said, "All right, now what are we going to do now?" And I'm realizing that it's flooding and it's going to be serious. And I got in my car, and I felt like thinking, I lived east of Roanoke down in Bonsack, which, you'd have to negotiate Tinker Creek. Of course, Lick Run was first, and that's Trout Run, I believe, altogether. It empties into Tinker Creek. And I realized I better stay as high as I can. And then I'm thinking, well, we got the Blue Ridge Parkway from Mill Mountain down to Blue Ridge. So I made my way up Franklin Road, Tazewell Avenue, and up on the Parkway up to the Mill Mountain Star Link. And so I came on out of there and went down through Benton and got off at Blue Ridge.
How long does it normally take you to get home, and how long did it take you that day?
Okay. Normally it'd take 20 minutes. That day probably an hour. That's even taking the high road too.
And was it bad up there as well?
No, it was not bad up there at all. I mean, of course, we're above all the water and everything, and so when I got off down at Blue Ridge, there was a bridge that was partially washed out. So I negotiated it, and the rest of the way from Blue Ridge on up to Bonsack was clear. So I got home and I said, okay, now what do I want to do? My wife was out of town. My son, I felt like he was safe too, so I didn't feel like they were out of danger. At the time, of course, we didn't have cell phones or anything like that. So I believe I called my wife or got a hold to her, and I said, I'm going back downtown in Roanoke. And,
what compelled you to do that? Why did you decide you wanted to go back down and try and take photos?
Historical value. I knew this was really going to be something, and if I could stay out of danger and still try to document the event, I felt like something was up. And as soon as I got my chest waders out, I knew that it might be pretty deep by then. And so I came back up the parkway and I went on up to the Mill Mountain overlook, right in front of the Star. You know, we've got basically two overlooks up there. One of them I went to would give me a look of the Victory Stadium side and the Riverside. Yeah, and then actually I believe it did give me a view of Walnut Street also. And then the one right in front of the Mill Mountain Star, it gave me, you know, basically a view of straight out towards the Civic Center and all. But my best view was the side overlook that got Walnut Street and a few other places up there. So while I was photographing up on Mill Mountain, it's really the eeriest thing that could happen. I mean, I could hear sirens going off in the distance. It's kind of echoing and coming up towards me, and I'm standing there. I could hear helicopters pulling people out of the water.
Was it still raining at this time?
It wasn't.
Okay.
It probably had quit long about that time. I'd say up on Mill Mountain, I was up there probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It had quit raining. The water had risen pretty quick. And from looking at Walnut Street down there, I could see, wow, it's up. People couldn't get across that bridge. As I'm looking at it behind you there now on the wall, it was awful. But I felt like I could get down in there, and so I made my way back pretty close to where I had parked that morning because the roadway going under the 581 interchange there, it rose to where I could park up there and put my chest waders on and started making my way down through town. The first place I went to was let's see, that's now called Williamson Road and Franklin Road. And there was, I had to be careful. It was probably my swiftest part where the water was coming up.
So the water was still moving throughout town?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
It was still coming into town.
Wow.
It was kind of settling down. So I saw 2x4s, had to kind of inch my way up through there because it was tugging at my feet and almost wanted to wash my feet out from under me. But I made across there and started...
So you were just walking around town with your
Right.
waders on?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
And so I made my way over on Campbell Avenue again and started walking west up towards the market center and square and all that, the market building. And it was starting to get darker too. I'm gonna put my glasses on. And it started getting darker. And you know, this was called the 100-year flood. But since then, they've revived that. It's now the 175-year flood.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I saw that on one of the interviews or some write-up or something. So.
Well, I've been telling all the news stations it's the 100-year flood.
Well, that's what we knew from then, but here recently, I said, oh no, man, they're going deeper than or further out than that.
Wow.
And so I made my way up Campbell Avenue, and what I shot the photos with was a Pentax Film-E Super, and my lens I used went from a wide angle. It was 28 millimeter wide, and then it went out to 90, on the zoom. At the time, I was shooting, all this was slide film because I felt like the longevity of the film and all, that the best would be the slide film.
Now, when you say slide film,
Right.
I've never heard of that before. What do you mean by that?
Oh, okay. You're familiar with film where you used to have a negative? Well, when you're shooting with slides, you've got positive. In other words, you're already, what you view on a slide projector just goes right through there, and that's your actual.
Okay, sort of like a Kodachrome type thing, type negative, positive.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
shooting positive film.
Yeah. Okay.
Instead of saying slide,
Yeah.
it's positive.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And at the time, the color saturation on those seemed to hold up better to where I didn't have to worry about it fading. And my film speed at the time, I believe, was 64 and then 200 ASA, which is this film speed, and I may have even shot some 400 because as it got darker, then it was harder to capture that.
Were you worried about not like them turning like because you're it's a digital age. People today don't know that once you took the picture, that was it. You couldn't look at it, you couldn't change it.
Right.
Were you worried about the one time sort of I got to get this shot?
Yeah.
I mean, did you have any fears about what you might have captured?
That's a good point. I mean, we're shooting digital now, and we automatically, you'll see them look at it. Yeah, that came out, so I'll go on to the next one. And, at the time, shooting slides, I had to be concerned about whether it's the right exposure or not. I would overexpose, underexpose, and then do a normal one.
So you took 3 for every shot?
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much. At the time, a roll of slides came in either 24 shots or photos or 36. 36 was just about almost a double roll of that.
How many do you think you went through?
I'm going to tell you what I ended up doing very shortly.
Yeah.
How many rolls did I shoot? I shot as many as I had, and when I ran out of the slide film. I walked over on Church Avenue, and there was a film dealer called Ewald Clark at the time. Thank goodness at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock, they were still open. So I walked in with my waders, and I said, hey, we got a flood down here. I said, hey, you fix on slide film. I think I bought them out, yeah.
Wow.
So that gave me another 6 rolls or whatever too. And when you're in the middle of shooting, you go and you do the over and under exposure or the normal exposure, and you hope you capture it, because like you said, you don't know until you develop it. So I was very fortunate, just from my knowledge of exposure levels and everything, and what I would expect out of it. I got very lucky, and they all turned out.
So in the photographs in our collection, which are currently on view in Trackside Gallery at the Owen Sterling Museum, there are some of people being rescued from the Wiener Stand. Were there other people out and about being rescued that you saw, or were you really the only person out there at the time?
Well, as I was making my way down Campbell Avenue, there were manhole covers that were coming up. The water was pushing them off. I knew to stay out of the street. I knew that up on the sidewalks, I was like 4 inches above, the street water. So also I was concerned about the electricity. The lights were still on. The city had done a great job of insulating the cables and all, and it looked like Venice.
I see. I wouldn't have even thought about that.
Yeah.
Gosh.
All I needed was a boat, maybe. And so as I came down the street, there was, at the corner of Jefferson and Campbell, I think there was a police officer that was a block up from me, and he saw me walking around the building, and I think he may have said, "Get out of the water," or "Get out of the street," or something like that. And I figured at the time, well, what's he going to do? Wait in here and, arrest me or lead me out or something? I felt pretty safe there. I mean, I was okay. But there was, and you asked me about the wiener stand. That was,
It's right behind
you saw
you.
this right behind
Right
me?
behind you.
Okay. So you can swing that camera around.
So the wiener stand that's inside is right behind you.
Yeah, it's actually right behind me there.
Yeah.
So if you look at the clock, it says 25 minutes till 6. And as I was making my way by there was a guy named Gus Cagnes. His uncle owned the weenie stand. And Gus was inside there, so I kind of waved at him, and I noticed a 2x4 had been wedged into the door, the bifold doors, and so it was seeping water in there. And so I went to pull the 2x4 out of there, and I don't know whether too much weight got on the door, or anyway, all of a sudden the water started rushing in there, and there was a cigarette machine or a vending machine that got pushed all the way against the side wall. And at that time, I saw Gus getting up on the counter because he was dry until the water started coming in. So then I saw him swing his legs around, and then he got over on the other side of the counter and then made his way into the back room. He and one or two other employees were in there. So as the door swung open, I got that shot of the 25 minutes till 6 photo. And I said, "Gus," I said, "I can't help you now, but I can take pictures." And so I did. And so my next step, before that though, I had made my way on up the Campbell Avenue up to, and you've got pictures of that. There's a grand piano building that was up on 1st Street. That's as far as up as I went, because as I went up that way, it gradually started getting less and less. But I noticed at the time the city bus station was still under construction. And some guy actually had a sheet of plywood that he was sitting on, and he was out there with a 2x4 floating around out in the middle of Jefferson Street and Campbell Avenue. And so after I made my way past the bus station, and by the way, I did step off in a hole there at the bus station. Like I said, it was still under construction, and that's the heaviest the water got on me, because it was below street level. So it was pushing all the way up to my chest, and I was holding my chest waders up to get above it until I could get out of that hole. I didn't feel like I was in danger then either. And the water was not swift there. It was a gradual flow moving towards the market and the market building and so on. But anyway, I was still up there, and I made my way on up to where the grand piano was displayed, and the water had seeped in there also. And you see that one over on there. Yeah. So, and then on the other side of the bus depot was, I think, New York Fashions, I believe is the name of that one. It's in here somewhere also. I noticed their door was open because water had done pushed that open too. And there was a lady in there, and she was carrying clothing to the back room to keep it up out of the water, and it was up to her thighs and all too, I think. So she was trying to get stuff moved out. And back on the other side, we had Presses, Grants, McClellan's, all those stores. I'm switching back and forth on my sides of the street. Trying to think, the drugstore was there. Everything was ruined in there. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't clean it up. They had to throw it out. And I felt really bad because the next day I saw stuff out on the sidewalks where they had to throw out. And later on, I keep skipping around, but I think you get a sense of, where I was and what I was doing, and the time level is probably off a little bit of when I was there. But I saw, as I got on down, I noticed there were some John boats and rescue people, helping people out. And I noticed later that the people that were in the drugstore, it wasn't CVS, it was maybe Revco or one of those. Anyway, I saw 2 or 3 people in a boat that had been in the drugstore coming down Camel Avenue, and they made their way down past Jefferson Street and heading on down like you're going to the market building. Before they got there, I actually heard some popping and cracking where the windows were giving a little bit because the boat threw a wake. Even though they were going real slow, they still had a wake.
So was it a motorboat or
yeah,
like a, okay,
yeah, it
wow.
was,
like the one of the little...
Yeah, lightweight. It
yeah.
wasn't, I don't think they had a electric motor. I think it was, thought I heard a gas motor maybe. But they were going real slow, but even going slow, it threw a wake, and it caused some almost, and it may have broken some windows too.
Wow.
So in addition to them, I saw some other people, and you've got them right here behind me. That's down in the market area. And there was actually people up on the tables there that were, there's one up there at Thomas Market. That's not the E.J. Thomas, that's another place. But the Thomas Market, see, they've got a boat, and it looks like somebody in the back there was pushing them. But yeah, they had some people out of the weenie stand, I believe. So they were there. What else?
About how long did you stay out to photograph?
A couple hours. Yeah. I guess I ended my evening down at the gift niche. That's in the market square, and they're still in business. They had only been in business 2 years there at the time. Matter of fact, I talked to Laura today.
Is that's in the Hartsook building, right?
It's
Remind...
Hartsville building? Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Right there on the corner. And so, yeah, I was just happened to be in there today because they had my A-frame exhibits down there, and I went to see those. So we went over and talked to her. And that was pretty sad too. It was getting later in the day, like probably 6:30, 7, something like that. And they were sopping out stuff. And fortunately, I think she told me today that at the time they were able to hose things down and reduce prices and stuff like that. But a lot of things they lost. A lot of people lost stuff.
Did you, at any point, did you ever feel like you were in danger?
No, not really. not once. I realized that when I went in the weenie stand that even though their lights were on, you know, they were still alive. They didn't get electrocuted, and I was okay. So it was something else though to be down there then. The market building, just 6 weeks prior to that, they had renovated. Yeah, so, I mean, they had a grand opening, reopening like 6 weeks before that.
Wow.
Here they were up to, you know, 6 feet, or 4 or 5, 6 feet in there. So, yeah. And this one here, we decided to make that a big one at the time. And by the way, I want to give credit to, although he's not still in business, Mike Kessler. He did all of my printing for me. And the framing company that I used, I think they donated the frames. Can't even think of who I used. They were down in the industrial park down on 460. But Mike Kessler printed all those, and when I got through with them, I did give them to the Historical Museum, and now I'm proud that I did that.
We really appreciate them. It's a fantastic documentary, you know, moment in time that not many people can say now, at least, that they were around for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even say that I was around.
Yeah. But I found out later that the Norfolk Southern Bank building, they had all their electrical works in the basement, so we weren't allowed to go back in the building. I went to work the next morning, but couldn't get in. They said, I think it basically said, go home and we'll call you. So for the next 3 or 4 nights, I spent time down on 13th Street Southeast, where it was a railroad crossing. All electrical work was out, and my job was to light some flares to make sure that traffic would stop for incoming trains in both directions. I think there were 2 people, 2 of us assigned to that. But backing up a little bit, when I did come to work, I think we've got 2 or 3 pictures of the streets. That flood left grimy, muddy, stinky, I don't know what you call it, brown water residue or whatever you want to call it. It was not a pleasant thing to walk on or in. And I think that morning I realized that it was going to be messy going back into town. So I think I wore some boots of some sort. And as I was coming up through there, and I knew and I know a lot of the people that own businesses down in the market square. And I think we have several of those where they were hosing and brushing off that grime off the sidewalks and all, trying to just, you know, get a grip on what happened and trying to get things back in order too. I felt so bad for them. And
How, backing up a little bit, how did you carry your camera around?
Hung around my neck, and it was above my waders. Good question. I made sure it was kept out of the water. It would have ruined it. Like what I told you when I stepped off in the up at the bus terminal, had the camera up here because I wasn't sure. I knew they hadn't fully put that together, and when I stepped off in there, I wasn't sure what I was getting into, so I turned around and come back up on there again to get out of that. So that was the only time that I was in danger, so I didn't hold the camera up. The rest of the time, it was resting. But my iconic photo that I'm most proud of is the one that I'm shooting. It's back towards Hotel Roanoke from the standing under the clock, which the clock is still there. It's been there ever since I can remember, and I was born in 44. And so standing and bracing the camera the best I could on something, maybe a street sign, I was shooting back towards, and that would be north on Jefferson Street. And at the time there was a Hardee's restaurant right there on that corner. And so I was shooting back towards that. But anyway, the street light, it was burning red. You know, everything in that intersection was still on. Electricity was on. But it was a neat shot with the grimy water and the lights reflecting off of it. And
They look so eerie.
oh, they were. I was just fortunate. And see that car in the middle of the square, centering the square area, and I don't know why somebody, would not realize, unless they carpooled or something, but they're parked right there, and maybe that car floated to there. But I think I saw some live filming later on, and as the water was starting to go down, I actually saw a duck swimming across there, a live one, yeah.
Wow.
And so, yep.
So you went out over the next few days to photograph. Can you describe more of what you saw? Did you go to other areas besides downtown to photograph?
Yeah, I did. The Micromac, now that's down in the southeast.
That was taken the day after?
Actually, it had to be the day of, because that water was still up, I believe. And that kind of doesn't register with me. I remember taking the photo, but why I was over in there, I don't recall that one. No, that's, I remember photographing it, and that's one though that's kind of out of the other area, how I got over there and all, and don't realize, because that would have all been underwater too, unless I came down off of Mill Mountain and came down Riverland Road or something. But
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, that one was on Riverland. It's on the back, it's on Riverland Road, so.
Yeah, yeah. But yes, I photographed other places. I even made my way up. The next day, I got over on Wasena Bridge, and as you know, back then we had a transportation museum there. We had the 1218 steam engine and another one over there, and then several other things. And I looked down off of the bridge, and there was a trailer, there was steam engines, and several other things that were, steam engine was turned over. Yeah, because that force of the water through there, it really damaged stuff. So it wasn't much good to us after that. Yeah, I see Lakeside over there. Looks. Yeah.
What's, over those few days, what's the most memorable thing that you think you saw?
Days after that?
Just the day of, or the few days after, any time during that period. What has stuck with you the most?
I suppose the weenie stand and the fact that I couldn't help them. Even if I had, the water was still seeping through their doors, but that kind of rushed it up a little bit. Seeing the display at the bed display up at, let's see, what did I say, that was up on Campbell Avenue?
Grand
Piano.
Mm-hmm.
Not to make a joke of it, but they really did have a water bed display, and it had done seeped in there, and almost up over the beds. So they recovered. The lady at the New York Fashions carrying stuff, and I basically just hello, and I guess I asked her, is there anything I can do to help her? Like help her carry clothes.
Was she by herself?
Yeah, from what I saw, yeah. And it was kind of dark too, and that's some darker images. It must have been after, then it got dark at like 5:30, 1st of November.
Were you worried about getting home that night?
No.
Because it stopped raining at that point.
Yeah, it stopped raining. I knew where I had parked, and I knew it was above like 6 or 8 feet, and it should be okay. And it was. And there again, I did the parkway. So I was on the parkway 1, 2, 3 times, or 4. Back home, back Roanoke, back home. I guess 3 times. What else? And the girls at Gift Niche having to sop things up and wring things out. And then the next day, people hosing down the sidewalks. And then seeing Lakeside Amusement, how that kind of pretty much, that ended things for them, because they closed in 1986, early part. It was due to that and some other things that had happened.
So the image we have in our collection, that's of the shooting star, correct?
Yeah.
So were any of the rides damaged at Lakeside that you could see?
Just the low-lying ones, yeah, they were. Because I guess it's Mason Creek, it popped the banks and just came on through there. So yeah. I did notice the bridge on Tinker Creek up towards the mill wheel. It's Mason Mill Road, that's the name of that. The bridge was washed out. I saw a Representative Granger McFarland. He was there standing on the bank where the bridge was washed out. We could get up to it, but we couldn't go across and going up the old mill road there. And then the story of E.J. Thomas's market. I had seen that earlier that day in Tinker Creek when it got out of its banks. It just took the building away, and with Delegate Thomas, he was up on the bridge, up on the roof. They had climbed out of the store inside. Somehow they managed to flip one of the roof vents and crawled out up on there, and a helicopter came and rescued them with seconds to spare. And as soon as the building caught more water in it, and the doors and everything, it just forced it, flattened it on down the creek.
I was lucky.
He was very fortunate on that. But that's some memories.
Did the flood impact how you feel about Roanoke, or how you felt about Roanoke at the time? I mean, obviously this took a lot of effort to clean up afterwards.
Yeah, and somebody else had asked me before a question similar to that. They said, "How do you feel now when it rains real heavy?"
Yeah.
Like back in June, was it? We had all that rain, days on end. We had a very similar situation there. A little more rain would have maybe caused the area to flood, but I made my way down to the market area. It was a beautiful sight. It was not flooded in the least. I mean, there was other areas of Roanoke that really caught it worse than the flood of '85. But the downtown Roanoke, it held up. Whatever the benching of Roanoke River over by Victory Stadium, that helped. evidently it kept it from, building up. And as you know, or may not know, we have a stream that goes under the market building, starts in right up above the Ponce de Leon, and there's a road. Is it a trout run or something? And it's always been there. We built Roanoke on a salt marsh, and we've had to deal with it all this time. We've done a good time of dealing with it. And the example of June, we had a lot of rain, but praise God, it was held up. We didn't have to go through that. But yes, I get nervous every time that rain comes down heavy, but you might be getting ready to ask me, would you do it again? No.
Yeah.
I'm too old.
I was thinking about that question,
Yeah.
would you do it again?
I'm not a hero anymore. Wasn't a hero then, I just happened to be an optimistic person to figure out that this is going to be a historical event. And I didn't do it I feel sorry for what happened to other people and the situation that the flood put them in. And I didn't do it to glorify it or anything like that. I did it to document it. Just like O. Winston Link. He did it to document the steam trains, and thank goodness the N&W Railway worked with him on being able to back trains up and shoot another shot if he wanted to. He'd use a call box. He'd call and say, I didn't get a good shot on that. You mind if I string some more lights and hit it with flash? And the railroad cooperated because they knew it was historical what he was doing, and they worked with it. And the people that printed all this and managed to give me the framing and backing and everything, or discount the prices to me, I appreciate what they did, and I think historically it turned out great. And I'm just proud and happy that I was fortunate enough to be able to do that.
Is there anything else you want to discuss or talk about with the flood, your experience or anything like that?
Trying to think if I covered everything. And as soon as I walk away from here, I wish I'd have told her this or that or the other, but this is the first time I've really been able to sit down and talk about it in depth of what happened, where was I, what did I do, how did I react, what kind of equipment did you use to photograph it with.
So in our collection, when I was pulling these photographs, I saw that you had given a camera to the museum. Was that the camera you used?
Yeah, it was the exact one.
Okay.
And
I'll make sure to pull that
chest
out. Yeah, I knew the chest waders were what you used, so I'll make sure to pull that out for the exhibit before Tuesday.
Yeah, they're probably dry rotted.
No, I have not.
I wouldn't doubt it. But I said, this is where they need to be. I mean, what do I need to do with them now?
Do you still have all the slides and everything?
I have all the images, yes. They've been digitized.
Oh, good.
Converted from slides over to them. Quite a few of them. Yes.
Well, if there's nothing else you want to add, we can wrap this up.
If I can, let me, you care if I walk right here?
Oh, no, yeah.
Want to put down a hold or just go from where we were?
Whatever you want to do. And I think one of those is slipping. The stuff's not staying on very well, but that's okay.
Right, and that's the one I was telling you. That's the New York fashions here. And that woman, she's carrying clothes, and those are hers. She's carrying.
Wait, there's a person?
Yeah, that's her walking. And she was going to the back room.
So that right there is a person.
Yeah, that's her carrying fur coats to the back room.
Oh my gosh.
And this is a gift niche. That's Laura there. And they had only been in business for 2 years. Oh, this one here. This was after the fact too. This is Hardee's. They're at Camel and Jefferson. Yeah. Good, I'm glad you're welcome with it. That's the yucky stuff. That's looking Camel Avenue. It's on Jefferson Street, looking over there. And something else you'll notice that is rare, that's torn down now. That was the underpass that the NS employees and Hotel Roanoke employees and people walked over town, and they walked underneath there. And it got to where there was some concerns for safety, and they ended up tearing it down.
Interesting.
Billy's Ritz, something you don't see anymore is your phone booth.
Telephone booth, yeah.
Yep. Okay, that is Wasena Park. I'm up on the Wasena Bridge, city bus, antique, trailer, fire truck, another probably one of the rail cars. Okay. Looking to the Market building. This is in Market Square. And I'm looking, yeah, that way. Thrift store. Okay, this has to be tied in with that Micromac photo over there. Wow. That was the Roanoke River. Okay, this is where I was working down here in the Colonial American Bank building. Looking again on the north on Jefferson Street. Okay, you know the WDBJ 7 people, you know Robin Reed? He lived in this house here, one of them. He was living there at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, he told me later that was his house. Where I got this from, I think I got out, I was on the side of I-581, which is not a safe place to be. Yeah. This, I was standing on Camel Avenue shooting across the street, and it was getting very dark. So, yeah, stay with me then. This is working, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay, Lakeside Amusement Park, and you can see the mess that Mason Creek jumped a bank there. This is over on 13th Street in Northeast. It's going across Tinker Creek. It's a good fishing hole when it's not all muddy and everything like that. And then, of course, we're on, that's the Market building, not the Market building, but the Center and the Square part of the building there. And the gift niche is over here on this corner, the other side. Yes. Okay, Walnut Street. You've got the big one over there that's Walnut Street, and cars could not get through here. That guy didn't get through, and then some of the guys coming from the other way, when I was up on Mill Mountain, I was shooting down on that, and I could tell that. All right, this is the old silk mill, yep, looking over in Southeast, and the silk mill and so on. Okay. Okay, we're looking on Williamson Road here, and this is Firestone, and I was right in the intersection of, I believe, Franklin Road and Williamson Road. It wasn't Williamson Road at the time over here, but I think they renamed it. Okay. Camel Avenue, just about all this, all these pictures are. This one and that one go together. That's your New York fashions, where over there you had a lady carrying her mink coats and things to the back room. Okay. That's Woolworth, and that's on down past, well, Southern Pawn Shop at the time. That car was there the next morning when I tried to come into work.
Oh, wow.
Still sitting there.
Wow.
Okay, a side view of the weenie stand and the market building. Of course, the weenie stand, one we had talked about earlier. That's the time when it went in. Right in the market square, where you see that car there, these two pictures were made right over here. And I was standing on the other side shooting back across. I took that picture from where the market building was. Okay, and these people had been rescued from the weenie stand and from the drugstore. Okay.
And then do you want to talk about, oh sorry, you want to talk about this one?
Right. How that guy ended up there, I don't know. He's the only one in there though, and you can see how deep it was. I have a feeling that car might have been kind of floating maybe. And a couple more. Okay, this is Walnut Street from the Mill Mountain Overlook. And this truck is parked going that way. I thought we saw him in another picture similar to that. They could not go anywhere, and that's a filling station that we had an earlier shot of too. But overall, it was a messy day.
All right. Is there anything else you want to add, or?
I don't think so.
All right.
Unless you can think of anything.
Today is Friday, September 18th, 2020, and this is the end of an interview with Tommy Firebaugh at the Historical Society of Western Virginia and the Owen Link Museum. I'm Ashley Webb, Curator of Collections with the Historical Society.